Welcome back to the FU Money Podcast, guys. FU, Dane.
FU, Hugh.
Where we talk about money and we're normal people.
Yeah, and we're always on site. It's somewhere different and a little bit cool.
This is for business. That's why we're drinking. For business.
Yeah.
Not because we want to.
Right, and pleasure.
Business.
And business.
All right, so Dane, what are we doing here today?
So we are in our series of, hey, I don't have a lot of money. I don't know what to do with it, but I sure would like a whole lot of that FU money.
I don't know shit, but I want FU money.
Yes, that's the one.
If anyone gets that tattooed on their face, we will include their name in, probably not the title, just maybe the description.
Somewhere very low in the description.
That's right. So if anyone wants to get that tattooed on their face.
Absolutely.
Anyways. All right, so that's the series.
Yeah, series basically takes the everyday W-2 earner who doesn't know a whole lot about investing into seasoned investor type thinking and deal flow.
Yeah. I'm just a normal guy, worked in manufacturing, now about like $6 million, well, $4 million of debt, 2.5 millionaire, and we're just teaching that. I mean, everyone can get there, super easy.
Yeah.
But we are doing today the emergency savings episode. This is the second episode you need to listen.
This is a good one.
And if you've never heard this, good job. We had horrible sounds. This is the second time we're shooting it. We're going to make it a lot more concise and direct. So what's the new format? We're going to what, something smaller? What's going on?
Yeah, we're getting into the goods a little bit quicker. So these will be 15, 20-minute episodes where we will talk about whatever the topic is in depth and then relate it to some real life examples and then get you home to your wife and kids.
Or husband.
And kids. Or pets. Or wherever you want to go.
Well, on a serious note though, so like the order allegedly that this should be in, which, we're shooting this after like 5 more episodes past this episode. Yeah. We're going back and we're reshooting it because it was so critical and our audio was garbage. So
yeah, we got off track.
So basically, one of the things that we had was emergency savings should be the first thing that you really save for. So it's like, where do I start? Go back and listen to the DNA of the show. Then it was, where do we start?
Yeah.
And it was budgeting. Now it's emergency savings, which technically is a part of your budget. But
right. But Hugh, what is emergency savings? I have savings, but now you're saying I need emergency savings?
Yes. I think that a lot of the confusion, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I have money in savings. Well, why? Point. We'll get into that in the savings episode, which we'll shoot later.
Yeah.
But the emergency savings is exactly like the name sounds. It is for emergencies.
Okay.
And you should basically have 3 to 6 months worth of emergency reserves before you invest in anything else.
Yeah.
Right?
So technically, if you have savings, you should pump the brakes, go back and see if any of that savings, if not all, can be repurposed into emergency savings with the purpose of being able to cover what exactly during an emergency.
That's a great point. So this is the event that you lost your job, you had to suddenly move. You have enough to cover your lifestyle expenses, your living expenses,
or an injury.
Yeah. Imagine you can't work anymore. You need to have 3 to 6 months of time to figure that out. I mean, people call it emergency savings. We can call it unfucked savings.
Yeah.
If you're like unfucked, thank God I've got this money in there that it buys me 3 months. So normally this is like food, groceries, gas, insurance, utilities. 3 months of that to 6 months of that.
What about my Amazon spending money?
I wouldn't have that in there.
What about my beer drinking money?
I'd brew beer yourself.
My gosh, now you're getting crazy. So realistically, it is for those moments in life, the unexpected that come up, that you really need to carry yourself as far as you can. They say, and this is unanimously agreed upon by every single financial book or guru on the planet, emergency savings are what gets you by in that event. And 3 to 6 months is like the minimum. If you are someone who's capable of doing more and putting a year aside, you're going to be the better for it if a health problem comes up, or not just with you, but friends, family. There's a million events that you just might need to take a pause, figure some things out, and you need to get yourself to point B. And so that's what we're really talking about. It takes a tremendous amount of, I think, for me, I don't know why, like discipline and commitment to do this form of savings, but it did save my ass, which we'll talk about later.
That's really it. So now you just said it takes tons of discipline. Now I am an undisciplined, sloppy piece of garbage. What are some ways that I, or someone, if you are, this is like, I don't know what I'm doing, right? What should you do from your paycheck? All right, paycheck comes in, now what? For if you're trying to set up emergency savings.
So
Don't worry about investing. Don't worry about a 401k. Don't worry about 503b. Don't worry about any of that until you're saving this stuff. What should I do?
Well, and that's what I was going to say. It's so easy to want to jump to the advanced stuff. Show me the cool things that you do, this plan, that plan, which we get into later. But what you're really trying to set people up for is automation. So that, for me at first, it was like $20 a month when I just didn't have a lot of money. And that felt like crap. But all of a sudden I was like, oh, I got 100, I got 300, I got 600. It's like, woohoo, it's kind of cool. And then as your income increases, I remember being able to do 10%, for example. And then there was a time that I was up to like 40% of my income, which was sweet. Things happen. And then once that account was, I had to dip into that account, then you have to build back. But it's what you're most comfortable and capable of doing. And the best way you can do that, and which we all did on a company episode, is you said, I want everyone to stop right now, log into your banking apps and set up an X amount percent that goes from your paycheck to this savings. And I was like, my bank doesn't do that. It took me like 30 seconds. I was like,
30 seconds.
It's as easy as it has ever been. It's not something you have to always stash away in a safe or somewhere. However, having said that, what is your thoughts on not always just putting in a bank account?
Yeah. So the first thing is, let's be real. 99% of the time, things are really going wrong. Money, if the banking, all the banking apps and internet's down for your whole country and down for a while, and you have bigger things to worry about than banks.
That's fair.
So the first thing is set up your emergency savings. Don't say, caveat this before I get into what Dane's kind of leading us towards, which is just pull out your bank account. Pause this episode, pull out your banking app and put $50 towards an emergency. Create a new account, which they probably want you to do anyways, and just redirect that money to.
Which, funny enough, when we did that, I already have a savings account, but I was like, oh, I'll set it up this morning and I'll throw an additional, I can't remember, 50. That was several months ago.
Yep.
And I was like, holy crap, I got like $500 in here that I forgot about just because it was doing the thing.
Just every first of the month, the first and 15th, whatever your paycheck is, just divert right there. And we did that, again, as a company during our morning meeting. I had all of us stop. And, you didn't have to do it, but we certainly sat there. Everybody just did it. A lot of people already had it there. So we have that. And then I also use the same trick for non-emergency savings, but we'll get into that different time.
Saving.
So what you were saying was, should you keep all that in the money in a bank account, on an app, on a phone that could die? What else do you do with it? So there's two things I would do is I'd have cash. And I have cash in a safe.
Cash is a dirty word, Hugh.
I have cash in a safe, or I have things.
Yeah.
So what are things? So you can have cash, which may or may not be worth something, depending on what country you're in, right?
Yeah.
Or things, right? Inflation makes cash smaller, but the thing will continue to grow in value.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, they might have gold or silver, and that isn't a safe.
Or military trucks.
Or military trucks. Actually, funny story. This weekend, tomorrow, someone's coming to buy. I had 15 grand burning a hole in my pocket, and I bought a N913.
These things are awesome.
5-ton pickup. Well, it's been sitting there for 2 years. Someone just made me an offer for 17 grand. I'm selling it tomorrow, and I made 2 grand.
Heck yeah.
Now, did I keep pace with inflation since I've owned it, since 2021? I probably made a little bit, but it'd probably be like $500 for 2021, even though it's 2 grand today.
Right.
Because money's falling so far.
But it was something that held value, to your point.
It's a thing that holds value. Now, generally, vehicles don't hold value.
Yeah.
This is a rare occasion.
Yeah, and you really need to know what you're getting into before you use something like a vehicle as a emergency savings bank.
Can you tell me what time it is, sir?
Right now, 2:54.
Can you use an older method of telling me what time it is?
2:54.
Oh my gosh, you did that on a watch? Now, some wealthy people have watches.
I will say I got burned on that.
You got burned on that.
Because I had several really high-end watches. That was like my thing.
Yeah.
I love watches. And so when I went to sell them one time, even at a pawn shop, they're like, we don't take watches anymore. I was like, well, I need the cash. And they wouldn't do it. So I probably didn't go through the proper channels of sourcing it out to collectors and stuff. But I was like, I won't put money in watches anymore.
Now we're diverging a little bit into random speculation.
Yeah.
The main thing is, should you have money in cash or emergency savings?
Yeah.
You should have your money going into a bank account automated every month until you hit that threshold. So do the math right now. Add it all up. If you need 3 grand a month, then you should have 9 grand.
Right.
And that's your new number. And you keep auto drafting until you hit 9 grand.
Well, And
now here's another one.
okay, you go.
Maybe you already set that up 5-10 years ago, but now you're married with kids and you've never once updated it. What's your new monthly savings cost? Is it now $4,000 a month? Is it $5,000 a month? Cool, update the number. A lot of people thought they were protected, but didn't never upgrade them.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've had to reevaluate that several times.
Now, after that emergency savings, then you can have some money in cash. Now, I'd say realistically, like $1,000.
Okay. Well, and here's why I say cash is a dirty word.
Yeah.
Because we're moving to a cashless system. And so there has been many times where I'm like, hey, can I just pay this in cash? They're like, yeah, we don't take that. I'm like, this is a US currency.
Yeah.
How can you not take this? You'd rather take a piece of plastic. So I also keep some cash for sure. I wish it was as easy as keeping it all in cash, because personally, I think it's safer with me and my shotgun than it is like in Mr. Bank up the street who can close down.
Only for emergency savings.
Yes.
Emergencies meaning to get you through a pinch. I need money immediately. Okay, that kind of leads us to the next thing. Where should most people keep their money for emergency savings?
I mean, realistically, like a high yield savings account or something that's not easy to get to. I mean, it's easy enough. Well, that's savings. Emergency, you want more liquid.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, if you can keep it in a safe at home, if you can keep it in an account that's accessible, it should be enough that you can use when you need to, but not enough to get you in trouble where you blow it on something stupid.
Right. So that's the whole point of it. Not at a high yield savings account, probably not in a brokerage account and stuff, right?
Or a VTXI and all that fun stuff.
Okay. So now, what are some advanced emergency savings strategies?
Advanced?
Yeah.
Well,
Now this is pause and shut off this video right now if you don't have that dialed in. But we'll talk about them briefly because we want this to be entertaining for advanced users as well and something they could think about.
Okay. I'm going to let you speak on the advanced stuff because I'm a very simple man with a simple piece of paper that keeps all of my numbers in place.
For those of you that are on the video, you're going to see I've reached out, pulled my wallet up, and I'm pulling out a credit card right now. I use my credit cards as my emergency saving.
Naughty boy.
And we'll get more into that later. We're going to have a episode where we trash Dave Ramsey and trash Grant Cardone, the same episode. So why do I think it's okay, or why am I okay with using a credit card as an emergency savings instead of actually having an emergency savings?
I mean, what I think really is the advantage is, one, credit cards are protected. So if it gets stolen, the credit card company is going to protect that balance. If your cash gets stolen out of your house or your safe, sayonara, basically you're out. You also, there's advantages, point system, your credit goes up, all of that fun stuff.
We're going to have a dedicated credit card episode.
Yeah.
But what's the main reason I'd feel comfortable throwing money at a credit card in an emergency?
Because you can carry the balance if you need to?
Because I already have all the money to pay that credit card off immediately. It's just not immediately accessible. It takes 3 business days to get to me. So I only need 3 days of money to be fine.
Interesting.
And most places will either have cash from your safe, or you can pull out a freaking credit card and you can be okay.
That's true.
So I keep very little emergency savings in a high yield savings account or bank account. I actually keep mine in a brokerage firm in FZROX or VTI.
VTI, that's the one I always screw up.
So why? Because if I am truly in an emergency, I can run my credit card up to $5,000 or $10,000. Right now, this one, as of right now, is sitting at $39,000. So, but I can pay it all off because of the money that's in those accounts.
Yeah. And the only reason I don't go down that road, because credit has tripped me up in the past. So though I have like $100K or more in accessible in credit limits, I am incredibly weary to use those because of how quickly 10,000 has been put on in an emergency vacation, and or something has popped up where I wasn't disciplined enough to come home, drop the cash over, or something else popped up because as an investor, a water heater goes out in a place, I pay that first before I pay the credit card, and then I got 5,000 I'm carrying as a balance.
And the only reason, the very first thing I said was I can pay it off immediately in full, always. That's the only way I use credit. I only need 3 business days worth of time to get me by. 99% of people, for your emergency savings, a lot of people got into trouble because they were using credit cards, which is why I told everybody to turn the episode off when they get to this point, unless you're already there, unless you're already healthy. This is why Dave Ramsey is so successful as a guy, because he's talking to 90% of people out there. People listening to us are probably talking to 10% of people. 10% of people are probably listening to us. If you can't pay it off with a card, you shouldn't be doing it. Even me, if I need emergency reserves and I can't pay it with a card because I can't pay it off immediately, just didn't bleed on it. There is no emergency that can't wait 3 business days, probably.
And I want to say that this ties back to the main purpose of this show, okay? It's not just so you have a big chunk of money in your savings or that you have a fully funded emergency savings account. It's to think like an investor. And every investor who really makes something big or crosses the next threshold has some of these basics in line by far. And without some of these tools, you will never get to the next level. And I want to always tie it back to, it's not just the Dave Ramsey method or the Grant Cardone method. It's what method carries you to the level that you want to be at, and then makes your credit, as you can leverage your credit as a tool, your savings as a tool, and you then become the savvy investor who comes out ahead. You're writing in the black. And these are the tools that help you do that.
And there's no one size fits all. We're going to talk about all the things. And at any point in time, I'm always changing and adapting my strategy. We'll give you simple steps to look out for.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that, emergency savings, we kind of talked about that. People get it. What do we have coming down the pipe in the series?
So, I mean, we are really trying to harp on the basics, but this isn't a money fundamentals podcast by any means.
We're starting at the fundamentals in case you're like, I don't know anything.
Right. So that like every other person, an everyday person can get to the point where they're thinking like an investor. And that's what's really important, because you have to change your mindset. You have to change the people you work with. You have to change their skill sets. And if they don't fit the puzzle, you have to get rid of them too. We have a million examples of when things went wrong with working with and investing with people who didn't know what they were doing, which should be another episode.
Yeah. And if you're just like, I don't want $2 million a year, I just want to be okay. Doesn't matter. The fundamentals do apply. So at any point in time, the goal of this at any point is, if you're talking to someone about money and this is 20 years from now, you should point them at the episode 1 of our podcast, and they'll teach the basics. Who knows? We'll have laser beam eyeball scanners for money. I don't know. The fundamentals are probably still applied, which is crazy.
And they have since the beginning of time. All the fundamentals are the same. You can hear it from us. You can hear it from a million great books. Some of my earliest education and introduction to thinking beyond just your everyday W-2 employee was 5 Lessons a Millionaire, taught me by Richard Paul Evans. Incredible entrepreneur and money teacher and writer and author. So
coming down the pipe soon, we're going to be talking about credit cards.
Yes.
Everything about that. We're going to be talking about credit card hacking and travel hacking. We're going to be talking about aggressively paying down debt in 2 ways.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about good debt versus bad debt. What's the name of that episode?
The good, the bad, and your mom's ugly.
Which is true. And you can admit
and it, so don't deny it.
Yeah. But on a serious note, though,
we
have all kinds of basic stuff.
Yeah.
And guess what? 2 or 3 days ago, we entered into a $1 million contract. And you know what skill set I fell back on? Basics that we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
It's the people who get fancy, they are usually completely fucked over.
Yeah. And
people who don't get fancy, they always, professionals, high achievers, they always do the fundamentals. I don't do sports at all, so I apologize, but what's a sports team? What do you know?
You're looking at me. I don't watch sports.
You don't know sports.
You're not sports.
But if you're a sports person and they hire some big shot coach to come in and take baseball for your favorite major league, most of the time, what are they going to do?
They're going to take it back to the fundamentals every time.
Back to the fundamentals.
Yeah.
The fundamentals, people who do fancy crap usually get burned. The people who religiously stick to fundamentals usually have great periods of success, and they're protected.
Yeah.
I'll give you a quick anecdote, and then we'll close the episode. Lots of my friends, including Dane, was 50% caught up in this, got tied up in doing fancy stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
This was just 2 years ago. And I stuck to the fundamentals, not because I'm smart. Remember, I'm dumb. Someone said, stick to the fucking fundamentals, don't deviate. And I paid the price back then, which was, okay, interest rates were 2%, 3%. And I was accepting 3.8%, 4% interest rates. because they were fixed for 25 years.
Yeah.
They were doing lines of credit. New president came in office, economies are changing. We had the fallout after COVID. We lowered rates, so then we had inflation's going crazy, so we had to raise rates. Almost all of them got hammered. And we as a company, the other 50% of Dane, were okay, completely okay. His personal residences were okay.
Yeah.
My bulk of my portfolio, bulk of the people who invest with this portfolio, completely okay. Why?
Because we didn't over leverage ourselves, and the interest rate, which no one saw coming, didn't all of a sudden jump up so high that good debt became bad debt.
I disagree. I'd say we are over leveraged.
Okay.
And the interest rate still jumped up very high.
Yeah.
But ours didn't. Why?
Oh, I mean, we'd negotiated a variable rate with a ceiling.
Exactly.
Well, and these are things, again, tools.
Yep.
Once you understand the fundamentals, you'll be able to walk into a room with the VP of a bank and talk about how to negotiate the variable rate and put in a ceiling so that you don't get turned upside down on the same time.
3 years ago, when the banks were trying to hand out these crazy, awesome loans, and they were trying to talk us into these loans, we said, we're not going to do that. How about we pay you more for a guaranteed risk? It's like buying insurance.
Yeah.
I hope I never use insurance. I pay it every month. I pay insurance to never use it. So we voluntarily paid a higher interest rate to get fixed debt or long-term debt, which is unheard of in commercial.
Yeah, but it worked out in our favor.
Anyways, we're getting into crazy amounts of debt. What are the key takeaways from the video?
The biggest thing is savings is different from an emergency savings. Everyone across the board unanimously agrees 3 to 6 months should be funded in an emergency account for you when you need it, and maybe beyond, right? Push yourself, stretch. I don't want to just settle for 6 months. I want to be able to cover myself for a year. So you got to think a little bit bigger, really focus on the fundamentals, understand where your money is going. If we go, let's take a few steps back, what your motivation around money, what your values are around money. If you don't have a budget, you need one. Look into that. Then we move into tools like emergency savings. Then we go beyond. And once we get through those fundamentals, we look at some pretty exciting stuff, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And including like private lending and how do you source your first deal and house hacking and all these fun, really cool real estate things that people love. But we'll tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly, how those things work.
Yeah. So again, emergency savings, you guys get it. It's pretty simple. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
If you listen to the next episode and you don't have an auto draft set up to some account, then you're wrong. Just shut that episode off. Harry Carey is the only solution. Japanese invented it. Or Google it. But on a serious note, just do it. Very, very simple. I hate to sound preachy,
right?
But this number one skill, just do it. If you don't have savings, If you don't know how to find them, find out your most critical needs for yourself for the month, right? You have a wife and kids? Okay, that's going to be different than a single person.
Yeah.
You got, are you old and retired? Okay, that's going to be different, right? So find out what your savings are, stash in an account. And from there, save towards that goal.
Absolutely.
In a bank account.
Okay, innovate.
After that, only after that, when you're super, super well insulated, then we can do the fancy stuff. So pretty much ignore that whole section that I talked about, me and where my emergency savings are.
Well, and I'll quickly insert how valuable this is. And Hugh brought this up at the beginning of the episode. I got in some hot water.
Yeah.
And it was put in a position where I need to sell 4 properties all at once. In the event of doing this, in the process of doing this, I have had to work nights, weekends, fixing everything you can imagine, from roof shingles to gardening to crawling in crawl spaces, soliciting my family and friends to help me paint, replace like electrical sockets, all of these things. And had I not had an emergency savings in place, as all of these things came in at once, I would have been sunk.
So I want you to really take a listen at what Dane just said. He has an investor mindset, had savings, is a sophisticated investor. I'm going to say what led him to this was getting fancy 2 years ago. 2 years ago, he got fancy, got screwed. Symptoms came out, but they weren't affected. All of a sudden, he was affected 4 houses at once. He blew through all of his savings, the emergency savings, and then smart investing tactics, which don't worry about. We'll get into all that stuff. But emergency savings, his personal emergency savings, is the internet saving.
And this just came to mind how amazing it is that 3 years ago, I only owned a single property, and that's the one I lived in. So how quickly you as the everyday person can become an investor is really fast. I mean, I went from, like I said, having one house to house hacking a duplex to owning 5 or 6 properties at once, which have all been, which all came about because of the tools that we're talking about. So even to say that me, in a very short amount of time, owned like half a dozen properties is kind of wild.
It's because of the fundamentals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which you can absolutely learn. Remember,
Yeah.
I'm from Missouri, can't spell. D for diploma in college, baby. Probably should not have gone to college.
When I moved to Missouri and can't spell now.
Yeah. And we're out here.
Buying properties, doing the things that people do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're crushing it. I think we're crushing it, but I'm going to say, we're doing okay.
I think we're figuring it out. But the point is, if you're someone sitting there thinking, I couldn't imagine owning 6 houses, like that doesn't sound like it's me. It's 100% you, because I'm that guy.
Super doable.
Yeah.
Very easy.
Absolutely.
Whoever you are, I don't care. You can do it.
Yeah.
Terrible credit, you can do it.
So we'll get into all that fun stuff.
We'll get many episodes from now. Dude bought 2 houses for $90 1 month.
Oh yeah, that was a great score.
$90 per house. I mean, $90 for 2 houses.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. $180. And he made out like a bandit, which is weird because
Super weird.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, remember to like, subscribe, think like an investor.
Yeah.
If you can leave us a 5-star review, it'll really help us out.
And if you want additional tips and resources, join us on HughCarnahan.com.
Yeah, we have free resources. Each podcast is going to be having a checklist to download and step you through. And so that should be up. HughCarnahan.com. Top left corner will be free resources. And we're there. If you're a business owner, check out Small Biz Rescue. They are a sister company that basically does this. These are normal people how to run a business instead of normal people about money.
That's it.
Think like an investor. We'll see you next time.
Okay.
F you, Dane.
F you, Hugh. Cheers.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, Hugh and I really try to deliver value in these episodes. So if you learned something, you thought something was funny, you enjoyed a guest, please hop on to wherever it's being hosted, whether that's Spotify or Apple, and drop us a 5-star review. If it's anything lower than that, email us separately. We may or may not respond, but at least all of the things that we did right, let us know. And truly, if we did anything wrong, or if there's guests that you want to see, we aim to please, and you just want to be a guest on the podcast, how can they get a hold of us?
If you want to be a guest or ask us any questions, you can email fumoney@hughcarnahan.com and let us know. Again, we read every comment that comes our way. We actually have 2 or 3 super exciting ideas for shows that have already come our way. Again, we appreciate everything, guys. Remember, real quick, we are not experts at anything. This is not financial advice. Make sure you do your own due diligence. We are for entertainment, educational purposes. Don't listen to random strangers on the internet. We hope to share our message to get it as far as we can to normal, everyday folks, blue-collar folks, military folks. This is information that all of us should have. And so if you like that, please share it. Guys, we will see you in the next episode. Woo! Woo!